Hey everyone, how you doing today? Episode number 3 with Dion from Dion Talk. If you have not already, go to his channel and subscribe. I'm a subscriber. He puts out amazing stuff. He sometimes does these creative videos where one head and one head and one head. It's I don't know how he does it. It's crazy. How you doing, Dion?
I'm doing great. Those are my favorite videos because I get to argue with myself.
I get to argue with myself. That's awesome. Oh, that made me laugh. I get to argue with myself. Oh man, that would be hard. Yeah. Whew, scary. All right, man. So, hey, I want to talk about getting your money right because it's funny. I had, as you know, I have other experts, and I had Anna Kelly on yesterday, and she was telling me about experience she had with 25 or 30 seniors in high school, right? She had the ability to, I guess, be a chaperone for a senior event, which is pretty cool. So good for her. But she started talking about, trying to understand what kids understand about money. And the answer, unfortunately, was nothing. At best, they knew like top line income numbers. And I just wish people realized it's not your salary. I know plenty of people that make 100 grand, 200 grand, 800 grand a year, and they'll flex and they'll act all high and mighty. But if you look at them, they are a financial wreck. Their expenses below the line, right? Income, taxes, expenses. And then when you look at what I call freedom dollars, some people call it disposable income, it is minuscule. I did a video one time on somebody who made $100 an hour that after they just went through their entire budget, they make $2 an hour. Two. That's 2%. That is not a way to live, folks. You cannot have a good life with a disposable income of $2 an hour. So when I say this, what do you think about freedom dollars, getting your money right, all of that, Dion?
So I think you did it really well with, and Anna had a really good point of tying money to kids, because 100% of the time, no matter who's listening, you were once a kid.
Yes, that's a good
So,
point.
and we get a roadmap for how we see certain things in life. How do we see investing risk? How do we see relationships? How do we see money? And I have some friends who grew up a lot better off than I was, and they've, as adults, struggled with money because every time they make money, they still see it the way most kids do, as I have this much money to spend.
Right.
I just made money, so I can spend it. And I'll try not to get too deep into this, but when I was a kid, my mom was a stay-at-home mother raising 5 kids, very traditional Catholic family. And at 8, my dad took my oldest brother and moved away to another state. My parents told me that I was too young to even understand what separation or divorce meant. And there was a TV show called Little House on the Prairie, and there was a season where the dad went and worked on mines because there was no money at home. And at 8, they had me convinced that's what dad was doing.
Hmm.
So all of a sudden, at 45, my mom had never had a car license. She'd been a literal stay-at-home parent, had no source of income. And so at 8, with my mom, we would go to these onion fields just outside of Tehachapi, California, by Bakersfield. And at 8, I was working in the onion fields next to my mom, and it was 50 cents per bag that you can fill. And I wasn't big enough to shear the onions, but I could put the onion in the shears and then bounce on it with my legs and get it to go. So I'd fill a bag an hour, maybe, if I was lucky, and my mom would be working like an adult. And then my really good days, I would make $16 or so at the end of a full day.
Wow.
But the money went to my mom because she was paying the bills. And so as a young kid, I understood that you make money to pay things. And if I was good and I worked most of the day, because at 8, sometimes you run off and play with the other kids, which I didn't do a lot in the beginning because I was the wrong color to be working in the field. So I just got beat up a lot when we were starting there. But
Yeah.
after a few weeks, I became one of the in crowd and have some amazing friends from that experience. But if I was good all day, at the end of the day, we went to what we used to call the roach coach, which was a food truck that would come to the fields at the end of the, a couple times during the day. And my mom would take some of the money that I earned, because I'd see my money going from the field handler, and I would get to buy a candy bar that I didn't have to share with my brothers.
Ah.
So it was, when you're the youngest of 5, you don't get a lot of things that are yours. Even your plate on the table is shared. But that was my candy bar. So I knew that if I worked hard I would get out of all of it the candy bar. So as an adult,
Okay.
a lot of people work for their paycheck thinking this is what I get to spend, and then what's left I'll save.
Yeah.
One of my first goals as an investor was to get my savings rate to over 100%. And other people call it financial freedom, but I was looking at it as a lot of people think of saving 10%. When I joined the Marine Corps, a lot of people complained that we weren't making a lot of money and the military is underpaid. And I was thinking, this is so much money. I've never seen this much money before in my life. And they have this TSP program, kind of like a 401k, where you can put money aside, and they suggest, getting the match and all that. And if you do the math on how long you have to work, if you're only saving 10% of your income, even with a compounded return, you're still doing that, working more than 40 hours a week for more than 40 years to retire on less than 40% of what you used to make.
Yeah.
So when I started buying cash flowing assets, each one that I bought, the first duplex that reduced my housing cost from $1,500 a month down to $300 a month, didn't mean I had another $1,200 to spend. It meant that was immediately savings.
Yes.
And each additional cash flowing asset, it started off slow. It was more than 2 years between the first two duplexes. And then now it's this income snowball has kicked in to where I think, like you, I'm looking for places to put money to work. And as the market's a struggle this year, it's not easy to do.
Yeah.
Although
But we
I
stay
think
at
I'm
it.
seeing I think I'm seeing an uptick in inventory that you've been talking about
I
for the last
told
week
you
or
it's
so.
coming. I told people it's coming. Yeah,
they're still going pretty quick, but
Yeah.
they're hitting the market. And I've made 3 deals now in the last 7
awesome.
days.
Nice.
So
Cool.
And so I think if we can understand that working for money is the biggest risk we take, that we need to figure out, we have to work for money in the beginning, but once you can figure out how to put money to work so that the assets are paying you, I guess I'm trying to figure out a way to say, really it's avoiding life creep, thinking, I'm not making more money so I can spend more money.
There's 3 numbers, right? And again, being an accountant, being somebody who's comfortable with numbers, I sometimes can let it get away with me because not everybody's there, right? They don't see the world. I mean, literally, my mom makes fun of me. It's like, you got a chalkboard in your head. Nobody has the chalkboard. Stop doing that. I'm like, okay, Mom, I'm sorry. So in reality, there are 3 numbers. Typically, people focus on the wrong 2, right? There's how much you make, which is top line, which, oh, by the way, nobody really makes, because all of us, even if you live in Texas or Florida or Tennessee and have no state tax, you still have federal tax, right? So there's this, use $100. Okay, now you're at 80. Oh, by the way, do you live for free? No, you have housing costs and car costs and food costs, entertainment costs and insurance costs and this and that and this and that. And then there's some number left over. That's the number you get to save. I call them freedom dollars on purpose, because in theory, you could light them on fire and it doesn't impact your life whatsoever, right? Truly choice. The whole idea is to get that number, which always starts small, to replace everything above that line like you did. And suddenly life is better. So in the beginning, it's do what you can to increase the top line, really understand needs versus wants, work on this number, build it up, buy an asset, build it up, buy an asset, and then it snowballs. As you've said, it starts as a trickle, then becomes a small stream, and then it becomes a rushing river, or whatever you want to call it. It's simple to understand, but it's hard for folks because it takes consistency, and it's easy for that one life event to come in, right? You've been doing it for 5 years, you're almost there, and then you go, I buy a second home, or oops, I go buy a boat, or I get a third car. Why? Because I can. It hurts my head.
Right. And so in those beginning years, that's when that's the investing killer, especially.
Oh yeah.
And I saw, because the momentum is important. I saw a meme the other day on Facebook and I stole it. So I'm going to be using it in one of my videos soon, but it's basically an asset for every expense. And it showed a picture of, you need housing, so here's the rental that pays for that, or version of house hacking. You need transportation, here's the rental that pays for whatever type of car you want. You need healthcare, here's the rental that covers that expense.
Exactly.
And it just listed out everything. So maybe people aren't numbers motivated like some of us are, where they need to know, okay, my savings rate was 10, now it's 50, now mine's about 140%.
Yes.
And it can be item specific.
Yeah.
I want to own a Sea-Doo and go to the lake and get wet and splash. So that costs me $300 a month. So I buy
There you
this
go.
asset that makes at least $300 a month. Then I buy the Sea-Doo. Once it's paid off, I still have that asset over there paying me.
There you go.
An asset for every expense.
I like that. An asset for every expense. And again, folks, one of the things that I want to be very clear on, if you make the conscious choice to work 40 hours for 40 years to live on 40%, more power to you. Totally okay. Where I have the challenge is people want to talk about financial freedom and legacy wealth, but they're not doing the things. But again, in America, you have the right to make that choice. If you want to work 40 hours for 40 years to live on 40%, awesome. Go for it. Just want to close with that. Make sense?
It does. And I'm going to try to be sensitive to this, because I know some people really care about this. But a lot of people seem to hate the 1%, because the 1% are the haves and the 99% seem to be the have-nots. But it doesn't take much strategy and patience to get into the 1%. It's not like you need to be born with a silver spoon in your mouth. I mean, I was $89,000 in bad debt, single parent with 3 kids, making $17 an hour. And within 8 years, I hit $1 million in net worth by leveraging, by staying focused, by avoiding life creep, by getting the savings rate to above 100%. Yeah. And so it's one of those things where I think if a person in my position can do it, then most people should be able to do it.
Yeah, most people can. Absolutely right. I firmly believe that, and try to get that inspiration every day. To me, it's focus and daily execution. And you're signing up for, I like to tell people, a decade. You're signing up for a decade, right? You did it in 8 years. Awesome. You got 2 off. But yeah, I mean, it's there. And yeah, if you want tomorrow to be different, you got to be different today, right? You got to make some choices. So I look forward to episode number 4, where we talk about all these tax changes and how they're drastically changing our thoughts around real estate. Just kidding. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.